What's going on, guys? Gast here, giving you a new podcast. One that I haven't made these in a while. I felt kind of compelled to do one. There's been a lot of things on my mind, Fire Emblem related, lately. And with the all the news about Warriors and stuff, and I feel like I have some things to say. I mean, it's honestly, and nothing that I say today is probably going to be that like revolutionary. I just kind of want to say what I think about a couple things, just because I feel like it. So the direct just happened, and the Switch is just gonna destroy. The Switch has like so many games coming to it. It's absolutely nuts. Everything on trending just has to do with the Switch, that with the Nintendo Direct. Like, there's Nintendo Direct, Buff DDD, Octopath Traveler, Doom and Wolfenstein, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Kirby Star Allies, Super Mario Odyssey, Radiant Historia, Arcade Archives, and South Park 21st season. So yeah, it's a huge thing. And of course, I was looking forward to the Fire Emblem stuff. I knew there was expectations for some Warriors things that went down, and yes, there were. So Lyn is in Warriors now. I'm like okay with it. Honestly, like, I didn't really have much of an affinity towards Lyn in the first place, like, at all, ever. Mostly because I only consider everything about Lyn, like, just about Lyn that has to do with, like, her actual position in the story of FE7. And I honestly didn't really give a crap about her. I honestly didn't really care about her. At all in the game. She had a good spotlight. I feel like the tutorial mode was a good idea. But from like me liking her as a character or anything, I never really cared about her that much. So I'm sure it's a really great thing for a lot of people who like are in love with Lyn. But for me, it's like, yeah, I get she's popular. I don't really care, though. She's a character. I honestly, there's just so much nonsense about this whole, like, all, like, I wouldn't say nonsense. That's a bit strong of a word. There's a lot of, like, negative stuff being flown around Warriors lately, just because of all, like, the controversy and stuff. And I'm like, I care so little about that. Like, every Fire Emblem title since Awakening, well, I guess that means just two, but it seems like controversy always follows Fire Emblem everywhere, like, no matter what. Like, with Fates, people were, like, waiting for it to be terrible, myself included, honestly. I used to have a pretty low opinion of Fates when it first came out, just because of the story, but then I've since, like, gone over it. I think everyone should get over their hatred of Fates by now. I think it's been, like, 2 years now. Honestly, like, there's no point, I feel, of, like, disliking Fates anymore, or Awakening. Like, maybe it's just because I've kind of, like, grown out of the whole, like, hatred towards things. Like, the last thing I hated in Fire Emblem was Parry. And I don't, like... How do I explain this? I just think she's really annoying of a character. Like, she's just obnoxious, and I hate her. And she's, like, the one character in the franchise that I genuinely, like... I wish just didn't exist. I wish just, like, actually just was not in the game, would be Parry. That's how much I don't like her. But everything else, like, all of the, like, all, like, the controversy stuff, like, it's just the Soleil thing, and the Camilla thing, and I don't know, I don't even, if Niles was even a controversy to begin with, I don't know. Like, they were talking about how Niles was, like, the gay representation, but he was also, like, scandalous and stuff, and there's a bunch of stuff. It just feels like, Fire Emblem and controversy just kind of go hand in hand now. There has to be something wrong, right? There has to be something wrong that goes down before the game's release. Even Echoes, people were, like, going crazy about the supports or the triangle thing. So, I mean, it's just like, honestly, just really impassioned fans who have an opinion, which is fine, I guess. But for me, it's just, I'm just taking everything in stride now. Like, there's nothing that I can do personally that will change the effect of, like, the direction of the game that it wants to take. Like, nothing that I personally can do really matters, so it's just, I'm going to wait for the game to come out, and that's going to be it. And if anyone thought that they were literally going to forget the entire, like, every game before Awakening in Warriors, that's just ridiculous. Like, no. Like, obviously they weren't going to make an entire game. Like, I don't understand how people actually thought there was going to be no representation at all. Like, me and Raziak, who's a friend of mine back from actually Nova Scotia, like, we tweeted back and forth Well, he tweeted, I think subtweeted is what it's called. He replied to one of my tweets and he was like, yeah, I agree. Like, it's actually ridiculous to people think there's not going to be any DLC or any characters from the past games. Like, it's the fact that people actually think that that's not happening is just like, of course it's going to happen. Like, I don't know. People freaked out. They're just really impassioned fans who have like a burning hatred for the 3DS games minus Echoes. And I'm just sitting here like, dude, like, they're not gonna just dispel, like, they're gonna have Lynn and I'm gonna have everyone else. Like, I was just there. I was just like, I'm gonna wait for this game to come out and I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna have fun with it because I've never played a Warriors game. It looks exciting. I don't care about the controversy. I mean, I'm still pretty settled with Echoes. Like, when people talk about, oh, I'm not feeling like, you know, I'm forgotten about, or I'm like part of the, I don't know, the audience that just, whatever. I'm just like, yeah, well, I can make Bloodlines some more. So, like, at the end of the day, if I feel really betrayed by Fire Emblem or Intelligent Systems, then I'll just work on Bloodlines some more, and then I'll feel vindicated that way because I'm making something that is legitimately my own. But anyway, that's just kind of me. I think there's really, I just kind of like, honestly, I don't think there's anything I can do. So why am I I understand I can empathize with people who feel like they are really upset about the roster of Warriors. Or they feel like it was a weak excuse what the developer said and the whole developer thing. Like, I get it, but I honestly just don't care. So that's my take on Warriors and everything. I just want the game to come out. I want to play it. I want to see what it's like. That's all I want to do. I want to see what it's like. And Lynn coming in is, of course, Lynn was probably going to come in anyway. Like, Ike is probably going to be in. Hector's going to be in. Like, and even if they're not, like, I don't care. I know people will care, and, you know, I feel bad for you, I guess, but I don't really care. So that's that. What else is going on? So I'm working on so that was Warriors. That's pretty cool. I'm really starting to like Heroes, man. Heroes is such a fun fucking game. I love Heroes. It's so, it kind of, it has those really weird and odd strategies you can use to like beat a level, and, you know, people do like F2P characters only to do these really hard maps, and I'm just so intrigued by that. In fact, I'm trying to do that myself with the Robin Infernal. I'm trying to get my own F2P team together and really get something about that going. I just want to see if I can pull it off too, because I just think if anyone else can do it, then why can't I, type thing. I'm learning my way around the game. I'm learning all like the skills and what combination works with what and stuff like that as I go along, and I just have so much fun. I think it's such a great game, and there's a lot of content, and, you know, despite all the frustration I have, like the vocal anger that I have towards Heroes sometimes, it's I guess I'm just like one of those impassioned players of Fire Emblem who just things that really grate me about Heroes. There's so many other things to look forward to in that game. I don't know. It's really fun. I guess you kind of get acclimated to the whole Heroes nonsense, and your frustrations are just frustrations. And then, I mean, it's part of the game, right? No game's perfect. So I know I bitch about Heroes, but honestly, I still really like the game. Yeah, I really should probably work on my spur of the moment things anyway. Like that that angry rant on Twitter that I had for like 8 tweets. It was just me being mad, but I do really like Heroes. Yeah, I'm gonna hope that speaking of Heroes, actually, let's keep going with that. The whole Ike and Camilla thing, like when the community felt like it just devolved for like a day, that was annoying. I actually feel bad for Camilla now. Like, I think about it and I saw the whole, like, just the most, like, some really, like, toxic shit being spewed towards Camilla. Like a literal pixelized character was actually being shit on so hard that I started to feel bad for her. And then I sided with Camilla, and then I felt like I had to justify my reasoning, because the second I tweeted that that tweet, like, now Kith, because it was the joke from the Future of Heroes video, people were like, you're siding with Camilla, yada, yada, yada. And people I can't tell now I can't tell if people are being sarcastic or people are actually like really hate the fact that I went Camilla, or just they really hate the fact that Camilla was like such a popular character and that she beat out Lynn anyway. I know there's the whole like the multiplier thing, but it's just I can't really tell anymore if people are actually saying that I have shit taste like sarcastically, or they're actually like, I hate you for picking Camilla, you actually have shit taste. So who knows what it means. But I sided with Camilla, and people are going to get mad at me about this, but I find that Ike is the most has the most grating personality like ever. Like, I was going to make a video about Ike and a video about the Black Knight, but honestly, I was talking it over with two people who were like impassioned Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn lovers. Like, they know everything about the story, the lore, the characters, what makes them tick, like literally everything. And I've read the script 1 or 2 times, and I've read up on Ike as much as I can, because my impression of Ike was that he was so bland and so boring, and like just as a personality is just something that I can't get behind. And I talked about this to these two people who were like really cool with me not liking Ike or not really being a fan of Path of Radiance in general. And I promise you guys, like I understand why people like Ike. I understand what he goes through as a character and how he starts off like this naive kid who knows nothing about Tellius, and we're supposed to learn Tellius together, how he wasn't ready to take over the mercenaries, but he asked to anyway, and how he depends on Titania and Soren to do all this stuff, and how he learns about the world not being so black and white, and how he unites the entire world, and how he's just this guy who is literally just this guy. But for me, like, those are all things, and those are all, they're all well done based in like, as like a story, they're all well done. There's just things about Ike's personality that he's too simple. Like for me, the thing that intrigues me about characters is when, there's things to be discovered about them that not everyone picked up on. The second I finished reading Ike's script in Path of Radiance, I understood everything about Ike, because Ike is intentionally simple and intentionally, like, all of his traits are just like, for me, when I look at Ike, there's no depth. There's no depth to him. For when I read his supports, there's no depth to him. Like, I just, in the sense that there's nothing for me worth discovering and making a video about where I would be passionate about it. And that's when I said that I thought Camilla was more interesting than Ike, which pissed off people. Because for me, when I did that Camilla video, the support science, and whether or not people actually agree or like where I went with that video, or people thought that I was like an armchair physician or whatever, armchair psychologist, the fact that I was able to go into her supports and theorize and come up with something that I thought was backed by good evidence that led to something else that changed the perspective of how we viewed Camilla. For some people, not for everyone, because people disagreed with me and people thought I was like looking way too deep into it. You can't, like, I did that video, and you can't, and people who like don't believe when I say this about Camilla and Ike is that those, like, you can't take that away. You can't take the fact that I came up with a video that I was passionate about, that I wanted to do, that I was really intrigued by Camilla, and you can't take that away from me. Like, I made that, and that is why I find her more interesting, because I feel like there's more to Camilla than meets the eye. But with Ike, there isn't. Like, I know, like, I mean, I spoke with these two people about everything Ike did and like everything he does and all of that stuff. And I'm telling you, like, I know everything there is about Ike, all of his quirks, all of his everything, all of his story arcs, everything. And it's so basic to the point where, like, I just don't like him. I just don't like his boring, uncharismatic personality. That's just for me. Like, people do like that. People do like a badass who literally just, his only battle plan is like, let's just kick the shit out of the enemy. That's basically what Ike mostly did in Path of Radiance. Was he took no names and he just like beat the crap out of everyone. And people were like, oh my god, he's a badass. He has really cool cutscenes with like the Black Knight and whatever. Like, people dig that. I don't. It's that simple. Like, I just don't like him. His character's fine. Like, it's okay. Like, for me, it's okay. I think his rivalry with the Black Knight, I get it, but I honestly don't even like the Black Knight that much, because I find him kind of stupid. Mostly because he's just actually crazy. And like, I don't want to spoil anything, but Zelgius is actually insane. And the Black Knight, like, is of course also crazy. But there's just the cutscene where I feel like there are some cutscenes in Path of Radiance that are just like really hammy, in the sense that you're like, they're supposed to like be telling. Okay, for example, I don't really know how to explain this, but in the cutscene when they're at Port Toha and they're trying to escape and get on Nazir's boat, and basically this is when Ranulf is in disguise, and all the other Lagus are in disguise because they don't want to get like exposed by Crimeans who will like rat them out to Dayan and then like also just beat them up and stuff. So Ranulf gets beat up, and then Ike comes in, he's like, what are you guys doing? Yada yada yada. And then the village elder says like, I forget what he says, but he's like, he literally just says what their intentions were in such like an obvious and like just clumsy way, to the point where it's just like, oh, so you were actually like, he just says that line. It's like, we will rat on you, and then we'll tell Dayan, and then they'll be in our best interest or whatever. So they actually just like blurt out the delivery of what the intentions were. And I looked at that cutscene and I was like, wow, that was really dumb. Like, there's just like the execution and delivery of some of the most like important scenes in Path of Radiance, I find are in my opinion, really clunky and like ham-fisted, that I start to like not care about the scene. Like another scene that I'm talking about is when the famous one when Ike flips his shit about Sanaki and he defends Elincia, and he says something like, you guys should apologize or something, and I actually started laughing because he sounded like this like really fussy like young kid who like, he was like, you guys should apologize to Elincia for being bullies, basically. Like, that's the impression I got, and I actually laughed at that cutscene because, first of all, he walks off, says it's madness, then he comes back. Like, the scene is about Ike being angry at, you know, the torment that Elincia goes through for the personal gain of Sanaki because she's this obnoxious young kid who thinks it's funny. And like, I get it. I get what they're trying to do with the scene, but the way it was executed for me was actually funny. And then I couldn't really like, I understand that Ike is really impassioned and like he fights for his friends and like he sees value in Elincia that they're neglecting and they're shitting on Elincia, who is this woman, this young woman that Ike got to know quite well. And is, you know, has a good rapport with and like is friends with Mist and everything. So she's one of the boys. Like, she's one of like the Grial mercenaries, essentially. Like, that's the impression that I got by that point in the story, even though they do a really bad job, I find, like establishing what how integrated Elincia is with the army. I feel like they should have done a lot more, but they didn't. I also feel like Ike should just not have the spotlight as much, because personally I think Elincia would make a way more compelling main character than Ike. That's just my opinion. Because I feel like she just has the charisma, and I'm kind of a traditionalist that way. Like, my favorite main character is Eliwood still. And I think Elincia's story of just being like this total like pushover. She's born into nothing basically. She's born as the Crimean heir, but she has no one. No one believes her at the first. She's like the heir of a kingdom that was destroyed. So she essentially has nothing. She's kind of like Marth in that regard. But Elincia, I feel like, would have a really great story if she was like the main character, and then Ike was like a deuteragonist, and you know, it would be Elincia's story of her coming of age, and she would like learn swordplay and all this stuff, and then you know, one of the more compelling scenes, instead of her getting shit on by Sanaki, would be she kind of like establishes her authority, but she can't really do that because she has to beg. There's a lot of things that I like. There's, of course, things in that cutscene that it would have to be, the whole story would have to be changed around essentially if I wanted to have Elincia as the main character in Path of Radiance. But I do. My ideal Path of Radiance game is Elincia being a deuteragonist and Ike losing spotlight, so you know, Elincia's story can be told. And that's just my opinion. I think Ike's personal journey is like micro level compared to like everything else that's going on in Tellius. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of get bored with Ike, is because I feel like his his stoicness, I'd feel like doesn't translate well as a main character in my opinion. His stoicness is just boring to me. Like whenever he's in a cutscene, I'm kind of just waiting for like Alencia to talk or someone else who is more interesting to me to say something. And I'll give credit where this is like, Tellius is a really interesting world, and the characters of Tellius are super interesting. And I feel like he's just one of like the least interesting parts about the game. And that's just me, man. Like it's nothing I can really argue. It's just he doesn't hit the right notes for me personally. I need a main character who has the charisma, and I feel like stoicness, without anything aside from being stoic. If you catch my drift, which I don't really know if I explained that well, but I just feel like his stoicness is just not for me. The reason why I don't like Ike is basically because he's not my kind of lord, and he's not my kind of lord in the story. It's kind of ironic that I say that because, in Bloodlines, Bram is quite stoic, but he's not just that. He also has, that's Bloodline spoilers, so I won't go into that, but, I definitely Ike doesn't gel with me. And then, like, my feelings for Camilla and not Ike really got even more amplified when I saw just so much shit being thrown at Camilla fans. Like, I know there was this rumor about this doxing thing, which was untrue. I'm pretty sure it was just random bullshit. I think it doesn't even matter anymore. Like, it's not even important. But there was a lot of, I feel like, toxicity in the community when that happened, and I felt kind of just like grossed out, for lack of a better term. I just think people can, like, you can have a legitimate reason to like Camilla over Ike. And my legitimate reason is one that I find pretty fair. Like, I find her more interesting because I can make a video about her, and I find there's more to her than her appeal, like her face value appeal. And then people are like yelling thought, like they're calling her Thought Milla and stuff. And I'm like, that's like one of the worst parts. That's one of like the dumbest things I've ever heard. Like I was talking this on Discord with somebody, and like the whole Thought Milla thing is like, she's called a thought because her the market she appeals to is to be like hot or whatever. And then they associate like her being like shamelessly attractive or something, or shamelessly sexual as like her being a thought, because that's just what they consider her as. And I know it's like a meme to call someone a thought, but like I feel like people, it's gone so overblown, that word, that I feel like people are like, these dumb idiots are just like saying the word thought, and like they don't even understand that it's actually an acronym for it's the hoe, that hoe over there. Like, I feel like people don't even know that it actually is a word that has like a definition, and it's an acronym for something. Like, that's what I think. People are like abusing this word so much and like calling Camilla a thought, and it's just like, no, she's not. How? Like, she's actually like, I mean, in her supports, she actually like doesn't want Laszlo to even like talk to other women. Like, I don't like, as a character for me, like Camilla is not like Heather or something, like someone who actually like is super flirtatious or something. That would be like a closer definition for me than a thought. But that's whatever. I just thought it was really stupid. Like all the Thought Slayer memes, I was just like, oh my God, this is really stupid. Like, this is really dumb. Like, they were calling like Tharia Thadia. Like, they were just making, words for that. And I'm not even like trying to defend either character when I just talk about it. I'm just thinking like, it's such a stupid word. Like, can we just get rid of the word, please? Like, I think it's like, at least in the context of Fire Emblem, I feel like it looks stupid from an outsider. From like, if I was someone looking in and there was a community who is so impassioned to the point where like they're like effectively kink shaming people who like Camilla because they assume that they only like Camilla because she's fan servicey and for like no other reason. And then they're just spitting out like thought all over the place. I feel like that's just bad. Like, it's a bad look for me. Like, That's just, in my opinion, I think, I mean, people like, I don't mean to say that there's nothing that is wrong with Camilla, because yes, she does have that fan servicey aspect, but like, I guess I don't care anymore, honestly. Like when I value characters, I try to look into their supports and, you know, what they do in the main story and stuff, and, you know, value things like that. Surface level things only for me gets as far as, do you look cool? Like, that's basically it. Like Yodel doesn't look fucking cool at all. He's an old guy with really generic robes and stuff, but he has a cool he has a cool personality. Like, that's the kind of shit I value. So I'm really not like at all with it when it comes to that sort of stuff. What else has been going on? The Cordelia support science I'm working on it. I'm having Cordelia is a tough character because for me to really nail this character in this video, you have to, like, I feel like I had to get into the mind of a perfectionist and really do my best to, like, empathize with what she's doing and how it's self-destructive. And I say self-destructive like 15 times in the video because it's such a fitting word for Cordelia and what she does. But it's going to be a long video because there's a lot about her. And I've seen what people who don't like her say about how she's like a humble bragger, which I think is false, that she's Fiora 2.0, which I think is really ignorant. Because she's not Fiora 2.0. They have completely different stories about Survivor's Guild. Like, it's completely unrelatable. They're even both solved in one support. And in fact, Cordelia gets 4 supports to solve her Survival's Guild, whereas Fiora gets 2 with Pent. So it's completely different. The context is completely different. I don't think she's a humble bragger either. Awakening system is to blame with how they handle supports in general, about her kind of like flipping. She's like, she loses her character development every support she changes into, because like on one point she can be married to like Virion, but then also be pining for Crom and Dercy support with like Gregor or something. So like there's issues that I just have to address in that video about just her, like, you know, suffering through like the system that she was placed in. But it's honestly like, if you stick on that, then it's really unproductive in my mind. So I'm trying to just, you know, mention all like those system failures first and then really get into her character. And there's a lot to talk about. So, it's a long script. It's really hard because, I have to like work with thinking like she is. Whereas in the other ones, I could really empathize naturally with her. With other characters, like I can empathize with Renault and I can empathize with Nyx and I could see where Camilla is coming from and shit like that. But with Cordelia, new character, perfectionism, I am not a perfectionist. That I strive to do the best I can do, but not like be perfect. Like I can do, you know, do what I'm capable of doing, but I can't really do what Cordelia tries to do, which is just like account for fucking everything and be the best at everything. So there's definitely an issue of me like actually investing my own feelings with Cordelia and really trying to get a feel for her character, because that's why it's taking so long. Like first of all, it's a long ass script. It's going to be a long video. And I'm still like in the middle of writing it, and it takes a while to really think of the right things to write about. So that's why that's taking long. And I know I said I'd try to be more efficient with those, but like the Renault one I did in like a week, and this one is taking forever because it's Cordelia. So that's going to be tough. Speaking of support science, Pan, P-A-H-N from Thracia's next, I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to be playing Thracia for that. I do like Thracia. It's a fun game. I like the similarities of genealogy, but I find the gameplay is already better and the story is already more intriguing. But I'll get into that in another video, probably like a podcast specifically for Thracia when I play it. So that's Thracia. Oh, and I think I forgot to talk about why I didn't like the Black Knight either. And I said he was stupid, I think. I just think that the Black Knight, in Port... Oh, I actually did. I was starting to talk about Port Toha and I just completely went off track. But the fact that he lets Makoya, like, he has the objective to get the medallion, and he already messed it up once. He already failed once, and he didn't kill Ike the first time, even though he could have. And I'm not going to buy the fact that, like, that Kangas was in the background, because we don't really get a perspective on how far he actually was, and it could literally take Ike it would take the Black Knight literally like 3 seconds to kill Ike and then leave. Like, it was just convenient writing to make Ike survive there. So that was that. And then in Port Toha, it's like confusing writing because, well, it's not confusing. It's just you have to think about it. So in Port Toha, Nazir is the worm. So he's effectively like the plan B. And the Black Knight is responsible for getting the medallion anyway. So his rationality is that I can let these idiot grunts who are fighting Ike, whose company has like proven that they've beat the shit out of Dain all this time, and the Black Knight just fucks off in a village and stays there, and then he realizes that Mikoya actually sucks and Dain is all bad, and then he comes out, and then in hard mode he does chase you, but the whole setup of like the heavy-handed writing at the beginning with those villagers, and then the Black Knight just staying in some random village house for like, just for a game mechanic, I guess, instead of like watching Mikoya do his thing from like the boat itself. Like, that would seem like a way more smart thing to do. Like, instead of completely like excusing yourself from the battle, just like oversee the battle instead, because you are the Black Knight. But instead he just goes in some random fucking house. Like, it's so dumb. Like, it's just so stupid. And then the funniest part is when they actually beat Mikoya and they get to the ship, and the Black Knight is still chasing them down for some reason, even though, like, unless the scale is just outrageously big, the Black Knight, who's apparently stupidly fast anyway, like, can't catch up with them, and he's like, oh, this is like, I don't know what he says, but he says something like, oh, they made it to the ship, now what do I do? And then Ranulf comes, and then Sephirin comes, and it's that whole thing, and then so basically the Black Knight's like, I fucked up, I guess, whoops, but at least there's still Nazir here, who is going to be on the ship anyway. And I just feel like the setup of that chapter, and like the Black Knight's rationality of like, instead of getting this really, 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 really important, like the most important item in the world that you're responsible for, you're just going to let Mikoya do it. Like, just, I get, like, he like, the thing is with the Black Knight is it's more to do with Zelgius, but like Zelgius is all about like, I'm a huge warrior, I live for the sword, I live for battle, that type of thing. So he probably empathizes with Mikoya when they say like, we haven't had a good fight in a while. Like, okay, why are you in a village house though? Like, that's my thing. Like, why are you dicking around in a house for no reason? Like, you're just sitting down drinking tea. Like, I don't understand the he's just sitting down watching. But like, it's not like he has a really good vantage point anyway. Like, most of the action is going to come from the left side. So I guess if there's a window there, I guess you can look. I guess he does look, because then he notices that Mikoya is getting his ass beat. But I just feel like if the Black Knight wasn't stupid, and if the writing didn't force Black Knight not to be there, then he should have just like been at the front of the boat to begin with, instead of that knight with the door key or the gem, or the knight that has the guard AI who's right in the front of the boat. That should have been where the Black Knight was, and then like the Black Knight should have been there, and then that would have made way more sense. And then even like, because like Sephirin needs them to survive. I guess I'm kind of rambling now. It doesn't make any sense for Sephirin to like stop the Black Knight from doing whatever, even though Ike finds that out anyway. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, it does kind of matter. I'm just saying, I think that chapter, that entire chapter is just hilarious. And I can't really take it seriously because the Black Knight is forced to be stupid a second time. And Ike conveniently survives. Because the Black Knight is just forced out of the situation. And then, you know, it's even worse in the Japanese version when you know that the Black Knight's warp powder malfunctioned, and that's why he lost. in the what's the castle called? Castle. It's not Nestra. That's Fate's castle. It starts with a G, I think. The castle where he dies, quote unquote, and he gets defeated. He does it because he wants Ike to live, and so the war can basically continue or something. It ties into FE10. But basically, like, I think the Black Knight in Path of Radiance is kind of all over the place. I don't really like any of the scenes he's really in, except for The Sephirin one, which I actually had to learn to appreciate before until one of the guys who I was speaking to about Path of Radiance like convinced me that you shouldn't look at Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn as separate games, which I did, because that's just kind of how I rationalized. Path of Radiance was its own game, and I feel like there was I was so frustrated with that entire chapter when that cutscene happened with Sephirin telling the Black Knight to stop. I just got even more angry and confused. And then, that guy talked me to he convinced me otherwise. And, I'm not just trying to say this because I hate Path of Radiance. I just think there's key cutscenes in that game that are just upon second glance, for me, it just is silly. It's some of the cutscenes are just heavy-handed to the point where I'm supposed to feel this certain way, but it's you understand what they were doing, but the delivery is just hilarious. I'm saying it over and over because I have nothing else to say. And my dislike for Ike and the Black Knight is really, my dislike for them too is really just personal taste. And that's about it. So it's not even worth making a video about because that's all I have to say about the situation. Anyways, that's basically it. That's the podcast I wanted to talk about. We had it's half an hour. I was thinking that much. It was half an hour. It was Warriors, Heroes, games and stuff. So that's about it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed listening. Deuces.